Welcome back, everybody. Today's video is going to be a meta update on 7.39C. I just got back from the Esports World Cup, being an analyst watching Team Spirit take down the championship, and I want to catch you guys up to date on everything that I feel like I learned, a little bit about like the rock, paper, scissors that's going on around in the meta. I predominantly play carry and offlane in my pubs, dabbling in a little bit of support here and there. And I just want to highlight what I've been really realizing ever since I got back, but also the heroes that popped up as the most powerful and prevalent in the games we saw during EWC. And these heroes are often heroes that are either flex picks or heroes that are just generally going to win their lane every single game. So we're going to be talking about what makes these heroes good, why they're good, what I think is a good way to deal with them, and all that jazz. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into my hero grid that I always like to make for every single patch. Okay, guys, so I'm going to break down my hero grid as I always do, and we're going to start out with the bans. So there's a couple reasons that I like to ban heroes. Sometimes it's just because I see them in every single game and they seem absolutely broken and they're really annoying to deal with. In this case, that's Nature's Prophet and Undying, and it's actually become Dazzle. In the highest tier pubs, Dazzle's occasionally played as a core, but he's almost always played as a 5 or a 4, and it feels like he pretty much always wins his lane. And then in the mid game, he's just become that support that you have to go on, and if you don't kill him, then he just wins the fight every single time, right? The only counter I've really seen is Axe, and Axe isn't even that great against him in lane. So it's only a counter that plays out later on. So this is a hero that I saw win almost every single game we saw it at EWC. It actually got elevated to a first round pick ban almost every single game. And it's now in all of my pubs, and it feels incredibly difficult to deal with. So if you're a 5 or a 4 position player, definitely time to play some Dazzle. It looks like he's mainly played as 5, but I do feel like the lower you go in MMR, the less important the distinction between 5 and 4 is. I do believe he's best as a 5, though. And then Sven is a hero that categorizes the second reason that I ban heroes, and that's when they hard counter heroes that I like to play. So Sven is specifically the worst hero matchup in the game for Phantom Lancer. So I like to play PL a lot right now. I actually haven't gotten to pick him very much recently because he always seems to be banned. But Sven is there because if he gets banned, then I'm much more likely to be willing to pick PL third, fourth, knowing that he's kind of the only hero in the game that feels virtually unplayable against in pubs because he's a carry that also just kind of outscales you at every stage of the game. So that covers our bans. Now I want to talk about the heroes that I'm worried about in the draft. I like having this section. So a lot of times it's either the heroes that are in my ban list or it's heroes that I think specifically alter the way that I want to play. So you're going to notice that there's a bit of a web going on my hero grid, and I want to illuminate like the idea of how I got here, the formula. So as I told you, I play predominantly carry and offlane. So my mid pool, the core role that I play the least, is heroes that I feel very comfortable on, and ideally heroes that can be flexed to other roles. So Primal Beast was actually a hero that got a lot of attention during EWC. Falcon started picking it up, and even Team Spirit, the champions, started picking it for Collapse as well, as a flex between mid and offlane. So since he's a hero that I like to play, and he flexes between roles, I highly recommend if you guys ever have to earn role queue tokens, and you're stuck playing a core role that you don't normally play, that you have at least 1 or 2 heroes that are played in the core role that you normally play, and can be your go-to pick if you're stuck in an off role. And I usually just jam first pick them because I don't have like a large hero pool if I'm playing mid anyways, right? So Primal Beast is great for that. We saw the common build during EWC was to pretty much just go BKB, Blink, Ags, Refresher. Like it was just like one item that gives you a little bit of mana and then just straight Refresher playing around the double BKB timing. It feels especially potent when the opponent's lacking physical damage. Basically, they don't have Ursa or Sven. Perhaps something like a Shadow Fiend as a really hard right clicker. But these are heroes that I always like to have in my arsenal, at least 1 or 2 flex picks. So Quap is getting flexed to all the core roles actually, but I think in pub she's best as a mid. And if you play her as a carry, you're potentially going to grief because your teammates probably won't like it very much. And she also scales very differently than most other carries do. And then Dawnbreaker, pretty much one of the best offlaners that we saw during EWC. We've been seeing her creep up and up her stocks. The build is still the same that I believe I mentioned in my previous video, which is to go Blade Mail into Ags, or like Echo Saber into Ags, or Vlad's into Ags, or just straight ags sometimes, because that BKB piercing global stun that's like a 1 second delay when you cast it makes her an amazing follow-up to any stun, and it also makes her insanely good at counter initiation. So as we're creating this web of heroes, right, I want to talk about offlane before I talk about carry. For me right now, the 3 best offlaners are Dawnbreaker, Axe, and Undying. So what's really interesting is we have a bit of rock, paper, scissors here, because I think Dawnbreaker is insanely good versus Axe, because Axe is all about blink calling somebody and killing them in the duration of it. But Dawn, who's a BKB piercing counter initiation tool that's almost instant, makes this really difficult for Axe to do properly, that I've noticed in pubs. Like if I ever play Axe into Dawn, it feels really bad. So I put Dawn first, knowing that I would rather pick her out of the 3 of these heroes, while Axe is very good if Dawn's not in the pool. And then I think Undying is also good because he's a flex pick, as you see, between 5 and 3. And in my pubs, at least, he's often first rounded, right? So if I don't pick him in the first 2 picks, then I'm not going to get him. So what ends up happening in the highest tier of Dota pubs is that people are basically evaluating the stocks of these heroes. And so, like, there's a lot of people that just mutually pick the same shit every game because they know it's broken. So right now, the first round offlaners are Dawn and generally Axe. And then you'll often, like I said, see the Undying get picked, but you also don't know if it's 3 or 5, which does add some power to it because you can't just reliably counterpick it because you don't know which role it's going to go to. What I do like about Undying, for instance, is that against Axe and Dawn, he does shut them down in lane quite well. But that's only if he's a 5. I don't particularly like him when he's a 3 against these heroes. So these are all just really important mind games that you have to consider. So because I'm first picking Dawn as my offlaner, the only reason I'm willing to do that is if Silencer is banned. Silencer for me has been the most notable counter to Dawnbreaker because he can reliably global your ult even if you have the Ags. So I ended up playing Dawn into Silencer a couple times and it felt pretty miserable. So notice how it's like, okay, if Silencer gets banned, I first pick Dawn. If Dawn's banned, then I pick Axe. If Silencer's in the pool and Dawn's also in the pool, then I'm not going to pick either of these, right? I'll probably pick Undying. So that's how I kind of cascade my picks and how I'm learning to kind of effectively strategize in pubs to make sure I don't end up, if I'm first picking my hero, basically in this strategical disadvantage, right? And these are all important things to keep in mind because I have a plan if I'm going to first pick my hero. And these are heroes whose stocks I think are high enough that given the parameters I mentioned, Silencer's banned in the case of Dawn, Dawn's banned in the case of Axe, that I feel that they are strong enough to be first picked. Now, I don't believe Axe, for instance, is strong enough to be first picked if Dawn is still in the pool. So if Undying is then banned, perhaps I will wait to pick my offlaner and not just jam something first. Hope you guys are kind of following along with me here. This is how I like to think about the meta and how I pick my heroes. Now, notice how all the heroes I have over here, Sven has to do with PL. I just want to make sure I know if he's in the draft or not. Ursa is really important to me because if I'm picking any of these offlaners that are like Undying, Darkseer, Centaur, Tide, these like melee guys that just get honestly chunked by Ursa at every stage of the game. They're meant to be like really tanky and they don't survive through Ursa. Then I just want to know if he's in the pool, because if I see a 5 position that like has a slow and kill threat like Dazzle or CM, and then I pick these heroes, my laning stage is going to be a bad time. And then the same for Undying, because as a melee strength guy, if I'm laning against him as a 3 versus him as a support, or if I'm a carry versus him as an offlaner, I don't want to be picking Sven into Undying. You know what I mean? If I'm a carry into the offlaner, because he's gonna crush me in lane. So there's a lot of like this ring around the rosy rock paper scissors that I'm playing with these heroes, and so that's why I've put them in the heroes to worry about the draft, because I'm thinking what enables me to pick these heroes. So we're gonna move a bit over to carry, which is my primary role, and then we'll talk about support to wrap up the video. So for me, the 2 best carries in the game right now, bar none, are Shadow Fiend and Nature's Prophet. Like, bar none. In my games, what happens is Nature's Prophet with the Soothing Saplings facet, it makes it so that Sprout heals you and your teammate, and when you Sprout and you tango that tree, it gives double value. So what happens with Nature's Prophet is I feel like there's just no such thing as winning the lane against him. There's just no such thing. There's very few, if any, matchups that he will lose if played properly. And the thing is the same for Shadow Fiend. Shadow Fiend has a little bit more requirement in his lane. Oftentimes he needs his support to have some sort of slow and control, or to be a melee guy that helps kill in frontline for him. So for Nature's Prophet, the build is to just go Treads Maelstrom, perhaps with the Null Talisman in lane for the mana to spam Sprout, going 4-4-0, never leveling your treants. For Shadow Fiend, it's much more about going basically Wand to start the game, and then into Brown Boots, Falcon Blade, Treads, Mask of Madness, and oftentimes you're just going like Hurricane Pike and a bunch of right-click items from there, potentially Manta, SNY, Butterfly, Daedalus, MKB, BKB if you absolutely need one, but a lot of times, like, if you can get away with Manta, Hurricane Pike, that's like the absolute dream on any ranged Agi right-clicker, and Shadow Fiend is no different. What makes these heroes so strong is that they can both level stats. Nature's Prophet doesn't level trees, and Shadow Fiend doesn't level his Feast of the Souls most of the time. And they both have really good base attack times. They both win their lanes, and they both just freaking chunk at some point. And right now, at the highest bracket, what it feels like is supports are just buying Glimmers and Ghost Scepters galore. It feels really difficult to be a melee carry and not get kited without a nullifier. That's what feels really difficult right now. And even though Ghost Scepter still works against these ranged guys, they're just going to stand there, continue hitting somebody else from like 800 range because they have Dragon Lance and, you know, a neutral item that gives attack range. And they're just going to wait for your Ghost Scepter end, and then they're going to hit you afterwards. And most notably, they're not hard committing, and you're not kiting them during this. So for me, these are the two best carries of the patch, like bar none. And I will first round these, by the way. I will first round Shadow Fiend and Nature's Prophet. I would just like to point out that I am not a good Shadow Fiend. Like, look at my historical win rate. Not a good Shadow Fiend. I am currently 3-0 in the last 2 days playing Shadow Fiend. I decided to pick him up because I kept losing against him. I feel like this hero is like virtually free wins, secures Roches, secures Tormentors, farms really fast, takes Ancients early. Everything about this hero feels like absolutely busted. Both of these heroes just create a lot of momentum on the map. It feels like you have to gank them because they win their lanes. They trade really well. They even have kill threat across the map, whether that's Nature's Prophet TPing, whether that's Shadow Fiend TPing to fights, honestly, because he's just such a good mid-game carry as well. So this is something that might not be as potent in your guys' games if people are not doing shit around the map and you're getting pressured a lot as carry. But I personally think that if you can get a melee support with you, these two heroes are just absolutely freaking busted. Except for maybe Pudge. But honestly, Pudge probably isn't even that bad either. So these other heroes in the carry role, I think, are a solid echelon down from these two heroes. But I do believe that PL is quite good against both of these heroes. And he's only really bad against Sven out of all the carries that are popular right now. So I really like PL. I said it time and time again that I believe in this hero in my last video. I said it during EWC. His win rate during EWC was quite poor. I personally think this hero is much more of an active carry. He's not a hard carry like he used to be. He has a relatively stable laning stage, and I believe the build is to go Treads straight into Ags, and then you go sometimes Diffusal, but a lot of times I like Mage Slayer or Orchid, like some sort of health and mana regen item. Mage Slayer for more durability against heroes that like have AoE spell damage, and Orchid more for mobile guys like Puck. And coupling those with a Shard, because the Shard allows you to Invis charge people, and that makes it really powerful, and you can be around the map, and you're hard to gank. You're really hard to gank when you have a Shard, because you can doppel off dust, and then you can use the invis outside of the dust area, and it's very difficult to catch you. So I personally think the biggest mistake people were making on PL is they weren't rushing Ags, and they weren't going Shard somewhere after it. I go Shard by 20-25 minutes pretty much every single game. It's amazing. I love it. I've had a lot of success with PL. All these other carries that are in the top row, I think are what I would call, they have a reliable meta build, and it feels pretty good. It's up to you if you want to try them. The thing about Doom is he's going Phase Boots Midas, and then when he gets to 2,800 gold, he sells the Midas in order to get Radiance, and then he buys the Midas again, and every time you have a big item, you just buy a Midas and then you sell it. Buy a Midas and sell it. And you get that extra experience, you get that extra gold. Then you get the Crit Wolf, which gives 30% damage and 250% crit as the game goes on. So that's what makes Doom a good carry. Like, specifically that build. A lot of people have, like, Radiance into SNY, Harpoon, even, like, a Butterfly sometimes in the late game. Doom is effectively able to scale because his build is really smooth. Ursa, very straightforward. Phase, Battle Fury, sometimes Treads. Battle Fury into Blink, oftentimes, like, Basher or BKB, sometimes Ags. Very standard Ursa build right now. Strong laner against a lot of these beefy guys in the off lane. And since we're seeing such a blade mail meta in the off lane, Ursa's great against all of these blade mail guys because he can press and rage and just not take damage from the blade mail. What's really nice about these ranged heroes is they are, in theory, countered by blade mail, but both of these guys reliably build into Satanic later, and the fact that they have Hurricane Pike plus Satanic in their inventory, blade mails just aren't a big deal to them, and they also flash farm the map. Blade mail makes people hard to kill, but it doesn't really make them kill you until it's like Axe with Blink and a blade mail. And at that point, these heroes have bought a lot of stat items. So when I look at the carry role, I have to think, am I good against blade mail guys? And do I have some sort of natural buildup? So Sven, the very standard Mask of Madness into Echo Saber, into like BKB Blink. Very standard Sven build. Lifestealer, we're actually seeing the Gore Storm facet with Radiance into usually like SNY Ags. It was something that Pure from Betboom team was doing a lot. So definitely check out his replays if you're interested in Lifestealer. And I do feel like the be-all end-all late game carry was actually Medusa during EWC. A lot of times it was like, it's a free Medusa game. So basically, if you're 10th pick and they have no mana burn, I really like Dusa. These are other heroes that I'm liking to try, but this first line of heroes is the heroes I recommend for you guys. And I hopefully gave you a decent idea of what their place in the meta is. Last but not least, to wrap up the video, we got our support pool. Shadow Shaman absolutely busted still. Just absolutely busted 5 and 4. Batrider is really strong in the 4 position. Bear in mind that it's very difficult if you're against like Abaddon or Oracle, heroes that can remove your lasso. But I'm not sure the hero's that great in pubs, but he's absolutely fantastic in pro matches. It's difficult for him to scale on his own. He definitely doesn't like have late game impact unless your team's working with you. But I've really enjoyed Batrider as a hero that utilizes the stacks. Like he effectively cuts creeps a lot, buys early triangle boots, and stacks ancients as well as the big camp and the triangle, and then lets his offlaner get a bunch of stacks. So if you're playing Bat, try to ask your offlaner to pick like Axe or Bristle or Primal Beast or Kunkka, a hero that can take ancient stacks pretty early on into the game. I do believe that is an essential part of his kit to be successful in pubs. Otherwise, in the 5 position, I've realized it's lane dominators and kind of like team fight securers. So like basically lane dominator, team fight securer, and lane dominator, team fight securer, and offers team some catch. I've been having a ton of success with Venomancer. Absolutely love Venomancer. And then Bane is more of a lane dominator as well with the BKB piercing stun, because there are a lot of carries like the Svens and the Lifestealers that I'm seeing in my games. And also these BKB right clickers that are ranged really suffer against the Fiend's Grip as well. So, with that being said, I just attempted to catch you guys up on like 3 or 4 weeks of meta in one video. And let's look at the timer. It was about 21 minutes. My goal for these meta updates is to have them be about 10 or 15 minutes for you guys. A nice bite-sized chunk off of what you guys can be looking for in your pubs. So as we move forward, my goal is to be doing one of these every week or 2 max, such that we can do that in a succinct amount of time. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more future meta updates, and more videos will be coming as well. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you later.